Hi, everybody. I'm Moby. I guess that's kind of self-evident at this point, as is the fact that we're here on Twitch and we're going to talk about hopefully a bunch of things. One, we're going to talk about the making of the My Only Love music video because it seems like it's really struck a chord, which was the intention. I mean, the animation is remarkable. The message behind it, hopefully, is relevant, and so we'll be talking to a lot of people, the animators, and some people who run NGOs about the animation and about deforestation and climate change and the role of meat and dairy in all of those things. Well, not necessarily the role of meat and dairy in animation, because I like to work under the assumption that the animation was produced without the involvement of meat and dairy production. So seeing as we're going to talk about we're going to use the music video as a starting point, allow me to state the obvious. It might be nice to actually watch the music video if you haven't already seen it. So I am wholly dependent upon the smart and talented and technologically savvy people out there. I don't know where that is, because some people are in London, some people are in Brazil, some people are in New York, some people, I believe, are in Philadelphia. We have people here in Los Angeles. So whoever knows how to play the My Only Love music video, maybe now would be a good time to play the My Only Love music video.
My only love.
So that's the video, and the other three people on the screen right here, Daniel, Stephanie, and Paulo, are the people at Zombie Studios in Brazil who made the video. And my recollection of how we ended up working on this together is I had this very rough idea, a sort of very rough narrative for the video that involved sort of like an emotional story about deforestation, in like tropical, subtropical deforestation, and especially the role of meat and dairy production in that. And as far as I know, we just sent you this simple little story, and you took my dim-witted simple little story and made this phenomenal animation. Is that, I mean, I'm old and delusional, and I used to do a lot of drugs, so I might be misremembering this completely. But is that roughly how this sort of came together?
Yeah, just like that. I remember that when we received the first contact from you and your team, was kind of a dream for us, as big fans, and for the whole subject that you were trying at that time to talk. Even in that moment that we are facing here in Brazil, this crisis that is almost a big problem for us. We had this problem before, but right now it's kind of it's huge. It's worse than ever. So I remember that I saw your first idea, we start to talk about, hey, how can we approach this? Because there is no happy ending for this film. It's just like, it's sad. It's sad what's happening.
Well, I guess it's that question, especially regarding climate change, deforestation, the role of meat and dairy. I mean, there have been a lot of phenomenal documentaries about this. There's a Brazilian documentary, I believe that I have a small part in, called Takeout, that just came out recently. And I mean, I know Leo DiCaprio's made phenomenal documentaries, but there's something, I mean, and documentaries are incredibly important, but sometimes they don't reach that large of an audience. And in a way, I love the idea of creating, we'll call it like emotional propaganda, because really that's what the video is. It's like, it's a way of, we're not presenting people necessarily with a 90-minute diatribe involving like data and science. Like, it's trying to reach people's heartstrings. And that's where I think you guys did such a phenomenal job. I mean, everybody I've sent the video to, their response, I actually sent it to Leo DiCaprio last night, and he was just like emotionally devastated by the video. It's a 3.5-minute beautiful video that makes the case for what's going on in terms of deforestation, I think, so effectively. So you guys did a phenomenal job there.
And this is the power. This is the power of the animation. This is very good because we make people relate to the characters that we've done in the music video. So it brings that emotional point without like shocking, because what we are talking about is very sad and big problem that we are having and facing here. So the animation gives us this way to show like a very bad and sad problem in a nicer, smoother way,
Yeah, and you can
try to imagine a live action with killing a jaguar, or a live action or scene where you can see. It's impossible to watch this, And animation, it's always helping us telling sad stories like this one, because it's easier to go through the video.
And Stephanie, I'm just curious, how long have you guys all been working together?
In this project itself?
No, just in Zombie.
I'm in Zombie like for the past 3 years. And Paulo is the first zombie at all, and Daniel is with us like in 2 years, I believe. Daniel? Yeah.
And
So-
sort of unrelated to this, when you all were growing up, what were some of the cartoons or illustrations or examples of animation that made you want to commit to being animators?
Wow, it's a nice question.
Yeah,
Really nice one.
we have many.
Yeah, I really like the Tim Burton's films from the beginning. Like I that weird design and some different stories. then I think that I got related with animation, more related with animation when I had my two young boys. So it's kind of being a father. Father is just like watching animation, sometimes 3 times, 4 times the same video. So I think that then I decided to change the path of the whole studio and go for this animation field, you know, and more even because I having kids is just like what I can tell to those guys in the future. Not only jokes or not only films about having fun, but films with meaning that I don't think that I can send to them. I remember that Gabriel saw the film and he he just asked me, "Hey Paul, hey Dad, why you are killing the animals again? Because it's the 30th film that you are doing and you are killing animals." And then I had to explain to him that is the truth, son. I'm just trying to express what is happening right now in a video. So animation is something that people will watch better than a live action film. So build this whole storytelling and having this amazing guy like Moby engaged with this whole plot and story here. I think this is a nice opportunity for us, kid, to show what's happening. Even because here, as I told you, and he knows because he sees the news, and he's very sad about that. Every day we are seeing scenes and scenes and scenes of deforestation and problems. So I think that's what moved me to make animation with this whole team, amazing whole team that we have there.
And I know one very important part of the video, and also as far as addressing deforestation is concerned, is the role of the indigenous people, you know, and the cultures, you know, in the Amazon and other tropical areas who are being murdered and who are being forced out. And I'm also, so I wanted to bring that up, but I also wanted to address your current political leadership in Brazil. But at the same time, I don't want you guys to get in trouble. Like, it's easy for me, just me sitting here in Los Angeles, to say that Bolsonaro is basically like your Trump and is just like a vicious right-wing dimwit who has no business even like running any sort of company, let alone being a president. Like, I think, unfortunately, Brazil and the United States, you're suffering through some of the worst executive presidential leadership in your history and in our history. So I can say that. I don't know if you're allowed to say that, because I don't want you guys to become desaparecidos.
Oh, yeah, but like Paulo was saying, this deforestation was happening many years ago in all the past governments. But in this actual government, it got worse, you know, because there were many numbers that they are hiding, they don't want to show. So, and even now in July that they did a law to stop the legal deforestation, it continues, you know, so it doesn't stop. So this music video is really important for everyone to understand the issue and to share. That's why it's very important to share this music video to everyone, to spread that to everyone.
Well, to that end, you guys, in addition to making the music video, you also made this amazing making of. Because I'm like, I don't know how to make animation. In the course of my life, I've worked with a lot of animators and a lot of illustrators, but to me, it just seems like magic. And so we're going to show the making of video, your making of, like, how did you make the animation? And I think for me, it's fascinating, like, just because you can see it's almost like this deconstructed creative process. And then after we watch your making of the animation video, we'll come back and take questions from the people who I assume that's me pointing to people. We're going to take questions from the people who are watching. So let's watch the making of the animation right now. So that was Zombies making of the animation for the My Only Love video, which amazes me because I have no idea. I mean, I can draw simple little cartoon characters. Like I can draw an alien looking left. I can draw an alien looking right. That's about the extent of it. And for me, animation is taking that alien and like pulling him across the screen. So I'm just amazed at how animation is produced, especially when it's like as beautiful and emotional as what you guys have produced. So here, okay, we have some questions that aren't necessarily about the animation, but let's see if we want to. So the first is from journalist Guido Scolo. And by the way, I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's names. Like, I'm an ignorant American. Like, I can barely speak English. So my Portuguese is not, I can say obrigado. That's about it. So if I mispronounce someone's name, please hate me for it. You know,
it's not a big problem.
It's a good time to hate old ignorant white guys. So from Guido Scolo, do you have any ideas that might bring small changes for those who find it hard to change their meat and dairy-based diets? Like Paul McCartney's Meat-Free Monday, which according to him can help slow climate change, conserve precious natural resources, and improve people's health by having at least one plant-based day each week. I mean, I've been a vegan for 33 years, so I'm personally a complete abolitionist, but I think it's worth remembering, you know, everybody's different. Everybody's coming at this from a different place. And like, of course, there is a part of me that wants to be a global food dictator and ban the use of animal products and ban meat and dairy. Clearly that is not the case. I'm just some weird bald white musician in Los Angeles. So I can't necessarily dictatorially tell people how to eat, but it's worth remembering, like, unless you're Joaquin Phoenix, like, no one's born vegan, you know? And so my suggestion is that it's a quote from Voltaire. I think it was in Candide, I'm not sure. Obama paraphrased it in his first State of the Union address. And he said, "Don't let the pursuit of the perfect be the enemy of the good." Meaning, don't stop trying to do good just because you can't be perfect. I mean, do what you can. And for everybody, that's going to be different. And I mean, for me, some small steps are: one, don't support politicians who believe that the climate emergency is a hoax. Like, don't support Trump. Don't support Erdogan. Don't support Duterte. Don't support Bolsonaro. Like, these people are the enemies of humanity as far as I'm concerned. So that's like the lowest rung of what you can do. And then we live in this time of amazing resources where anyone can be educated. Like, you go online and just, you know, especially if you're watching this, like, there's some people coming up from Mercy for Animals and from Brighter Green who will have amazing resources for, you know, for you to find out more. So, I mean, to the three of you, do you have any suggestions on what people can do in their own small way to sort of like challenge deforestation and address the climate emergency?
I think that we can work. Yeah, no, it's a hard question, but I think that's something that can change always the mind of this powerful industry. Is try not to buy anything from those guys. You know, if you eat meat, just try to see from your what's the background from that industry. They are doing anything to solve the problem, or they are, because as I see, even in Brazil right now, they only listen to the power of money. You know, if they saw their profits going down, so they will stop and they will try to do something. Otherwise, I think it's just like we can keep doing our small actions, but we need to press those big industries. And I think money is still the power to make it happen. You see what's happening here in Brazil right now is when the big investors from outside the country decide not to invest money here, then the government is trying to do something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so totally. It's kind of, we have this power. We can. I see that outside Brazil, it's something that is happening a lot. You know, I will say that people are not buying from industries and brands that are not having some kind of approach for this whole situation. So I think we can have the same happening here. And if we decide to do it, it will be I think it's a nice way about pressuring those guys.
There's a great organization. It's an international organization called the Carbon Disclosure Project. And they are doing exactly what you're talking about. Is they're going to all these Fortune 500 companies and forcing them to disclose the climate and carbon impact of what they're doing. And that is actually forcing corporate change, which can be so powerful. And obviously, like the Bolsonaro government, similar to Trump, similar to a lot of governments, the moment you start taking away their money, they panic. I mean, that's the only they're all self-involved sociopathic narcissists. Like they don't care about human rights, they don't care about the environment, they care about their ability and to make money for themselves and their friends. And if you can affect that, you'll see really, I think, systemic change. So okay, from Santalina, this is an animation question. And it's a question I have as well, phrased very succinctly. How did you make the animals look like they were carved out of wood?
You want to go, Daniel?
Yes. We try to make like a poetical thing that we brought to the script as making all the living characters of the forest, like animals, Indians, we made out of wood. And the idea was to have this natural feeling that they belong and live in synchrony with the forest. And the other humans, the bad guys, those were deformed and with metal finish, finishing. So we have like a good contrast between them,
And this is the power of CGI, because when you're using 3D tools like we have here inside the studio, you can try to do whatever you want inside the place. There's people trying to do big monkeys in scenes or dragons or whatever. We decide to work with this powerful tool like CGI to make it happen in this small scale, having those characters made in of wood. So it's something that we have to draw first, having the initial concepts. So you have amazing artists working and drawing and trying to find this first concept that we need, so we can apply this in CGI and try to have this realistic feel of what we had in our minds before.
So there's a woman named Shirley Ansky. You addressed the first part of her question, but the second part is basically, do you think there's any way to expand the video, whether that's, a short film, a long form film, a game, a series of shorts? It seems like it's really touched an emotional chord with people. So I'm just wondering if you've got any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think we have room for it. We have we have already a beautiful scenario, a beautiful idea. So yeah, we have room to have like a short film or even a long form film, a feature film. I think it has a really good room for this.
The problem is always the same, because CGI is a very expensive thing to work. So just like we could afford this film with Moby and work on this short film. To go for a full-length film or for a series, we need studios that can, and investors. It's a different path for the project, for having this message and doing this film in other medias. But it's always the same thing. But perhaps if someone decide to jump and try to talk about that, would be amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Have a lot of potential to do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of stories to tell, so there's room for this, of course.
And so I have a question here from Ninja Pig 2727, which is collectively between the three of you, what's your favorite part of the animation process, if you have a favorite part?
Yeah, my favorite part of the animation is after the clay. We have the modeling phase, that it's all gray. And then after this, it comes to the look dev part, that we bring like texture to everything and light. So it's the part of the animation that is really nice to see,
For me, it's just like I really like the combination of different areas, like the animator, the animation field, the pre-production when you have people drawing the concepts and everything, and animation is not like you don't have the same person working in every step of the animation.
Yeah.
So you need to combine lots of amazing artists, everyone doing a small part of the whole project, and then you combine these in this amazing video. So it's hard for me to choose which one I like, because I need everyone to work with the same love and with the same inspiration on every single slice of this project. So for me, it's the whole project by itself. It's amazing.
There's one part that is very interesting that I really like, is the beginning as well, that we brainstorm and we have the first animatic that we talk about scenes, camera, the storytelling. We decide in this part. So like Paulo was saying, like all the stages are really interesting.
So now that we've okay, someone has just asked a question that I also want to know, because I'm old and I'm not good at learning things, but I love animation, and there's a part of me that would love to be able to actually make it on my own at times. So Vegan Giotti asks, and I want to know this as well, what software did you use, or what software do you use for making the animation?
Well, we have a lot of softwares that we can work, but so studios can choose which ones they prefer to apply inside their pipeline. Here at Zombie, we have Maya, and we have a combination of other programs like ZBrush, Maya, Arnold for render, that it's making it happen when you are render the film. We have Photoshop where you are drawing everything. We have a program called Nuke that we use to combine every single frame from the final render and then make it happen, like applying the fire, applying the colors, mixing the characters with the background. So it's a combination of many tools. The ones we use for this video is those ones that I just described for you guys here.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for a bunch of things. Thank you for being willing to make the video. Thank you for making the video. And thank you for talking about your inspiration and your secrets. And now that we've talked about it, I thought, and I'm very curious to sort of like watch the video one more time, just with a fresh set of eyes after we've had like an understanding of how it was made. And then when I come back from that, I'm going to be talking to Sandra Lopes, who is the director of Mercy for Animals in Brazil. So once again, you guys, thank you so much. And I hope
so much, Mark.
I hope that we can do a lot of things in the future. And I hope that maybe Trump and Bolsonaro decide to like go on a skydiving trip and there's a hurricane and they're just washed out to sea and we don't know what happens, but no one ever has to see these monsters again. So let's watch the My Only Love video again.
My only love.
I was going to say I'm Moby, but I guess at this point that's pretty self-evident. I like stating the obvious. It gives me a sense of comfort. So I'd like to introduce Sandra Lopes, who is the executive director of Mercy for Animals. And you might know Mercy for Animals was started by, I have to use his new name, Milo Runkle. It's still hard. Like, I want to not call him Milo because I spent years not calling him Milo. But so Milo Runkle started Mercy for Animals years ago, and it's become like a globe-spanning animal rights organization. And Sandra, how long have you been working with MFA?
I've been working at MFA 1.5 years now.
Okay. And have you been involved, and forgive my ignorance, but have you been involved in the animal rights movement for a long time before that?
Yes, actually, I've met you in person a few years ago in Los Angeles in some summit. I used to work for another international animal organization, HSI.
Oh yeah.
So I've been involved in the activism, in the animal activism movement over 15 years.
Unrelated to animal activism at all, while the video was playing, you told me that you're about to become a grandmother.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Because you look like you're like 26.
Oh, thank you, Moby. Especially coming from you. Oh, it's such a compliment. Thank you. But no, I'm almost 50.
Well, I'm 55. And maybe there's something to be said for like a healthy vegan lifestyle, keeping us looking relative. No, it applies to you. I mean, I kind of look like Gollum on a bad day, but you look great.
Thank you.
So what do you see, especially given your sort of international involvement with the animal rights movement? So Mercy for Animals in Brazil, is your mission there different from MFA in other countries?
No, we have the same mission in all the countries, but we adapted the contents to Brazil. So Mercy for Animals is very open to the different culture that we have in all the countries that Mercy for Animals is working. So for Latin America, for example, for Brazil, for India, we always adapted the content, but the mission, the vision, the values, they are all the same all over the world. We want to ending the exploitation of animal for food.
Yep. And obviously, because we were, I was just talking with the animators about this issue, and it's the central issue of this music video, is the role of meat and dairy production in deforestation. And obviously, if you're usually based in Brazil, how much awareness do you think people in Brazil and people in generally have of the role of meat and dairy in deforestation?
Brazil has a continental land, so we're very, very big, and it depends. If you're going on the capitals, for example, São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, people who live on the big cities, they are very aware of that. But if you go outside, there are no awareness at all. So it's kind of hard for me to answer you that. But regarding to the Amazon, which is our subject in here, we pretty much do not have a lot of information on that.
Because one thing I've found, for example, when we launched the video, at the end of the video, it says that the majority of deforestation is the result of meat and dairy production. And someone responded by saying, actually, part of that majority, or like a lot of deforestation, is the result of corn and soy production. And I kind of hit my head, and I wanted to sort of sit that person down and say, the corn and the soy that they're growing is being fed to animals. Like that's part of the statistic.
It's not for us humans.
Yeah, when they cut down the rainforest to grow corn and soy, it's not so people can have corn on the cob and soy burgers. It's because the corn and the soy is being fed to animals.
Yeah, cattle ranching for the animals, to feed the animals. Yes, completely right.
And as you're based in Brazil, do you ever feel, or how much pressure or even threats have you felt in your work with MFA and with HSI before that?
Okay. Some of them are not directly, but yeah, sometimes when we launch, for example, an investigation like live export that we launched an investigation last year, there was some emails and some phone calls. I received some phone calls on my phone, but it was not like personal threats, but something like, you need to take out this video. You need to because you're not saying the truth. This is not the all animals are be treating like the way you're showing in your investigations, and we know that they are. So sometimes they are keeping pushing us. We just also launched another investigation with pigs about last week, last month. And also all the producers keep posting saying that we are lying, that the animals are not treating that way. And then the another organization also launched another investigation with the same subject, showing exactly the same images, but in a different farm. So we're just showing the truth. And what happened is that most of the producers, they wanted people to continue believe that the animals are very happy, very well treated, and then at one point they die, and then people just going to eat them. And we're just showing with our undercover investigation, we're just showing the truth, what comes like behind everything, behind the inside of the farms, and what everything that animals are being faced on their short lives.
There's a question that we looked at when I was talking to the people from Zombie, and I'd like to ask you as well, because I think you'd have a really interesting insight into this, is obviously, I assume you're vegan, I'm vegan, like you and I, like our lives are based on, working on behalf of animals. But for the majority of people who might not be ready to be completely vegan, or who don't have the time or resources or energy to devote themselves to animal rights, what advice do you have to people who want to do better, but might not be able to, at this point, completely commit to veganism and animal rights activism?
Well, one step at a time, right? Not everybody's right. It's on the moment to take the old steps. So one step at a time. And you can if you're interested on trying to, first of all, try all the recipes that we have. All the vegan foods are amazing. So you be caught by knowing a lot of different recipes and eat more healthy. Also, like, you can start one day at a week. I remember you're talking with the animators about like Meatless Monday or some kind of those programs. So just try once at a week. And also, because all the information are available, just Google and get the more information as you can, but do one step at a time. Do not push yourself, because if you're going too radical and you're not prepared for that, you might just don't go on the right path. And yeah, but we have a lot of options. We have a lot of good options, and the market is growing with all different kind of vegan food all over the world, not just in United States, not just in Europe. If you go to Brazil, you'll be able to find vegan food as well. And if you go to Poland, and if you go to Argentina, so everywhere is spreading all over the world. And because this is the future, this is what we're going to have in the next years.
So speaking of food, the last time I was in Brazil, I went to a bunch of different vegan restaurants, and I tried vegan, and forgive me if I can't pronounce this correctly, vegan feijoada.
Yes, I thought that you were going to say about that.
And it was great. So just selfishly, do you have a good recipe for vegan feijoada, and can you send it to me?
Yes, I can send it to you. Definitely. Okay. And also we put feijoada, that's the black beans, with smoked tofu and a lot of vegetables, but we serve in Brazil with some kind of flour that we call farofa. I don't know if you had that. And farofa is so good too. And then we also serve it with white rice and kind of kale. It's very nice. I will send it to you.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question from Vegan Giotti, and it's a great question. Makes me feel kind of dumb that I didn't think to ask it. How is Mercy for Animals collaborating in Brazil or working with government agencies to promote laws and change?
Okay, we have one department that is for, we have one legislation department in Mercy for Animals Brazil, and we have a lobbyist, and we're talking with the senators. For example, now we're working to pass the bill that's going to ban live export of animals. So we are working very close to all the congressmen and trying to convince them, doing all kinds of lobby that we can. We also collect petition online. We collect signatures for this live export. We have over 500 million signatures. I mean, almost half a million signatures. I'm sorry, almost 500,000 signatures for now. And this is very valuable for us to push our politicians, because we have those voting process in Brazil, and now it's close to the election. So it's very nice for us to have all this kind of petitions online as well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And it was really nice speaking with you again. And I'm excited to get your recipe for feijoada. And congratulations on almost being a grandmother, even though you are only 26 years old.
Thank you.
And so I think we're actually going to play the video again, which might seem like overkill. It's the third time in this show.
Moby,
everyone.
Since you launched it, I watched it like over 10 times. And
Okay.
I want to congratulate you and your team and everybody. It's amazing.
So we'll play it again. And if you've already seen it a bunch of times, maybe now is a good time to go to the bathroom, get some tea, get a snack. But Sandra, and when we come back, I'll be talking to Mia from Brighter Green about sort of like the international issues around deforestation and meat and dairy production. But in the meantime, let's watch the video again, or alternately, you can go to the bathroom or check Instagram or text or whatever. So, okay, thank you, Sandra, and good luck with everything in London, and congratulations.
Thank you.
My only love.
Hi, we're back after watching the video for the third time, or going to the bathroom if you've already seen the video enough times. And I'm here with my friend Mia MacDonald from Brighter Green. And hi, Mia. Thank you for joining us. You're in Brooklyn, right?
I'm in Brooklyn. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me.
So for people who might not be that aware of Brighter Green, because you started Brighter Green, right?
Mm-hmm. I did, yeah.
Can you give people who are watching a sort of simple description of what you do?
I can. I would like to start, though, by saying I really love the video. It's beautiful. It's maddening, but really, really nice work on that. So I wanted to say that. Very powerful. So Brighter Green, we call ourselves a public policy action tank. So that means we're thinking like a think tank, doing research and writing and outreach, but we're also testing some of our ideas. And we were started a little more than 10 years ago now to really work on issues where animal welfare, animal rights, environmental issues intersected, but in a global context. Even though we're based in New York and I care about US policy and I care about New York City policy, our work is really global and really focused on global South. So Asia, Africa, Latin America. And we've done some in-depth research for a number of countries, including Brazil, on the growth of big animal ag and what are the consequences for animals, of course, but also the environment, for climate change, for food security, for livelihoods, for issues of equity and justice. And so I think we'll talk a bit about some of those. And I know Moby likes data, so I have some data that I can weave in to our conversation as well.
I'm a nerdy wasp from Connecticut, probably I'm on the Asperger spectrum somewhere. So I love numbers and data.
I'm a nerdy half wasp, so maybe that's where we intersect. Yeah.
And so I remember one of the ways in which we met, or I first became aware of you, was obviously in the animal rights movement. There are a lot of remarkable organizations working on behalf of animal rights, but it's only recently that really the discussion of the impact of meat and dairy production on the environment has started to come to the forefront. You could almost say from Jeremy Bentham on, which was 18th century, until very recently, the conversation was only about animals, which is a very profoundly important conversation. But in a way, I feel like you were one of the sort of progenitors of this new movement of looking at the impact of animal agriculture, meat and dairy production on the environment. Have you seen in the 10 years that Brighter Green has existed, have you seen a sort of increased awareness in the impact of meat and dairy production on the environment?
I have, and thank you for saying that. But yeah, I mean, I have a background as someone who cares about animals and environment, both of them. And I just didn't see a lot of that work going on. So I would say absolutely. The external environment has really changed. So on the one hand, we have the drivers of deforestation and biodiversity loss that the video shows so well, and the real violence around that. But we also have a really growing, I would say, global, not just conversation, but policy, kind of a concord that animal ag is an important issue that has to be addressed. It can't just be an issue of moral, you're a better moral person because you're a vegetarian or you're a vegan. And one thing I've noted, and even preparing for today, is in the wake of COVID, right? And COVID has really illuminated so many inequalities and horrors in our world, including our treatment of non-human animals, both domesticated and wild. But it's not the aftermath yet, but in the emergence of COVID, there really is much more global statements from, for example, the UN Environment Program, the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, that just did a joint report on state of the world's forests, basically saying, agriculture is a key driver, probably the key driver of forest loss, plays out differently in different parts of the world, but that we really need to grapple with our food system and the role of meat and dairy in that. So I think the conversation has moved on a lot. What I think is lagging, and you discuss with the animators and with Sandra, Bolsonaro, Trump, is there's a lot of policy bottlenecks, right? I mean, we really don't have policies that are grappling with the enormity of the destruction that we see. And if I could just throw in one or two quick points of data, even in the Brazilian Amazon, deforestation last year was at its highest level in more than a decade. even this year, an area the size of Rhode Island, which, okay, it's the smallest US state, but it's still 1,200 square miles, has already been lost in the Amazon. So I think that the challenge really is personal action is important, but I think it's crucial that policies really grapple with the detrimental effects of this industry. And one other quick data point, I looked up, even in Brazil, which has a lot of policy support for meat and dairy, exporting meat, even to the US, believe it or not, beef is exported from Brazil to the US. A lot of export of beef and soy to China. That's basically the main customer, although Brazil sells beef to more than 100 countries. But even the agriculture industry in Brazil, it's only 4.5% of their national GDP. I mean, that's relatively small. I mean, the biggest is services, more than 65%. The next is industry, kind of heavy industry. So if you think about the loss of life, animals, indigenous peoples, their lives being disrupted, the violence, the degradation of forests that protects climate, that is, the Amazon as the world's lungs, it doesn't really make sense even from an economic perspective. And as we've said, money is very important. This is a very powerful industry, but there's a real disconnect between, I think, what the data shows and what's happening in terms of policy. But real emergence of this issue, I would say, and I think the viewers might agree, as a global issue that we do have to take seriously. So that's heartening.
And even on the GDP side, it's in a way, like, you're right, like 4.5% GDP, like, sure, that's significant for the people who are on the receiving end of that. But it's also, like, when people talk about GDP, they're not talking about the costs in creating that GDP. And the truth is, I assume if you were to like remove all subsidies, federal, state, local, the GDP would actually be negative. Basically meat and dairy production in every country on the planet costs the country. It costs the communities. And then when you start factoring in externalities like healthcare, basically meat and dairy production is this huge drain on the global economy. Like, without the subsidies, like, I remember our friend Mia Park and I, we put out a book about 12 years ago called Gristle that looked at the impact of animal agriculture on health, on et cetera. And there was this question that was asked when we did our book tour, which was, but isn't veganism inherently privileged, like, because you can afford to be a vegan? I was like, well, I used to live in an abandoned factory and I fed myself on less than $10 a week. So clearly you can be a broke vegan, because I was for a very long time, but also this huge variable of subsidies, with that exist in every country, indirect, direct, regarding water, roads, feed, etc. Like, the trillions of dollars spent subsidizing meat and dairy production. And without that, a family of 4 going to Burger King would spend $100 for their dinner.
Yeah, and you use that great term, that kind of policy wonky term, externality, right? These are costs that are not embedded in the price, right? And they are destroying the environment. They are also creating a lot of inequity. I mean, we've seen in the US recently, and it's also the fact in Brazil, people working in meat processing plants have been infected by COVID. And the corporations don't want to spend the money to protect them. And yes, I think, you were ahead of your time. I think you and me and with Gristle, but I think if we looked at those accounts, and that's actually something I really like Brighter going to do a bit more of work and engage with some kind of mainstream economists on this, I think the balance sheet would even be more strongly against meat and dairy, because we see the crises accelerating, right? We have the climate crisis. And when forests are destroyed, CO2 is released. And I have one other data point, in terms of tropical deforestation in the last 40 years, it's equivalent to about 2 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide. And that's equivalent to almost all the cars on US roads in a given year. So, I mean, this is enormous, right? The forests, we care for them for their intrinsic value, but they have huge value to the people who depend on them. They control weather, they control heat. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think it's really important to get that story out. We have to unmask even the GDP numbers, but what goes into that. And for the US GDP, I just saw farms in the US, It's like 1% of our GDP, but how many subsidies, how much political power is being thrown at these industries? And what are the environmental and, of course, cost to the animals and communities who live near these facilities?
Yeah. So I have some really great questions from people. One is from Colorado, 1985, and it says that the music video focuses on the Amazon, but for you, Mia, what are the other areas of the world that are of primary concern regarding the environmental impact of meat and dairy production?
Yeah, that's a great question. For sure, the US, even though we have a lot of resources in abundance here, there are huge environmental costs to meat and dairy here. China is a place where we also work. We have some great colleagues in a partner organization in China. So there are certainly effects within China on water pollution, on air pollution, of course, the animals. But China's environmental footprint, like the US, there are superpowers, has an enormous impact around the world. So China, even a country like Ethiopia, I mean, they've done some good work recently to do some planting of trees, trying to reforest. But there's a lot of issues around food security in Ethiopia. You remember the famine back in the 80s. There are still real challenges to feed people in Ethiopia well. And yet factory farming is growing. And we know factory farming relies on grain. And that Moby, as you discussed with Sandra, soy, sometimes corn. And so there are real issues, I think, now around how can we feed people well and equitably versus feeding billions of animals who have terrible lives. And it's not necessary to do that. So I would almost say our concern is really all throughout the global south as well as global north. But there are some hot spots for sure.
So I have a question, two-part question, and then I think I have to, we get to play the music video one more time.
It's great. Watch it, everybody. Again.
I mean, honestly, I feel like, we've played the video now 4 times in the course of an hour. Like, I love this music video, but trust me, I think I've even seen it enough. So there's a 2-part question, which is, it's from Samantha_Mirla, which is a very great question, which is how can she and others support the work being done at Brighter Green? And then the second part is, what was it like to work with Wangari Maathai?
Yeah, really nice question. Again, you have great Twitch audience. So Brighter Green, I would say support is wonderful, but I'd also say just come to our website, brightergreen.org. Look at the resources we have there. Feel free to email us. I think the contact is there, but it's info@brightergreen.org. Of course, we're a nonprofit. We welcome donations, but we really welcome people being involved with our work and finding ways maybe to share it or popularize it or join us in some ways. On Wangari Maathai, I could talk all day about that. I know we don't have time. She just quickly was the first African woman and first environmentalist to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And that's a great privilege of my life to have worked with her for about 10 years. And fantastic. She is the real deal. We were talking earlier about really people motivated by values and purpose. And she was exactly that. And it's really too bad that she died from ovarian cancer at age 71, so much too young, because she was very prescient about the issues of climate change and links with deforestation as well. And also, human rights and justice. So it was wonderful to work with her. And I would also encourage people to learn more about her values and her example.
Well, I wish we had longer. I mean, there's so many other things that we could go into. But obviously, as you mentioned, brightergreen.org, correct?
Correct. Yes. Thank you.
And also, as we were talking earlier to Sandra from MFA, so Mercy for Animals, I believe they're in a lot of different countries, Brazil, the United States. So, of course, please support them. And then thank you to the people from Zombie for making this phenomenal music video. And Mia, I hope I get the chance to see you soon once the apocalypse wanes. And I hope we get the chance to talk further because there's so many issues that we could touch on.
Okay, great. I look forward to that and to the apocalypse waning. But yes, to talking further for sure.
Well, this is like the first phase of the apocalypse. I had a conversation with Michael Greger recently about the upcoming pandemics, all of which are zoonotic in origin, which meaning they all come from animals. The upcoming pandemics are going to make this look like a walk in the park. So we got that to look forward to.
Yeah, and as we continue to destroy forests and biodiversity and jaguars, that makes a pandemic more likely, and create more factory farms, makes a pandemic more likely. So
yeah.
Thanks,
Boy.
Moby. Maybe that's the next video, the next animation.
Yeah, I'm got to try and figure out how do I make a 3-minute narrative around upcoming pandemics and the demise of our species. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for being involved, and thank you, Sandra, and the people from Zombie. So we're going to play the music video one more time for those of you who have not seen it. And really, my main interest in making this music video was looking at the impact of meat and dairy production on deforestation and the climate emergency. Because these are vast numbers, and I know that so many people right now are dealing with the current apocalypse, the pandemic, but it's worth remembering the climate emergency has the ability to destroy our species. It has the ability to destroy life as we know it on this planet. Everything we care about, every issue, whether it's gender equality, whether it's racial issues, whether it's whatever issue you care about, whether it's even selfish issues of our own health and our family and personal issues, everything we care about depends and relies upon a stable climate. So the climate emergency should be really our primary focus. And the third leading cause of the climate emergency is meat and dairy production. And I apologize for seeming too strident, but I don't think you can be too strident when we're talking about the end of our species and the climate apocalypse. So if you're an environmentalist, if you care about yourself and your family and the world in which we live, stop eating meat and dairy, stop supporting meat and dairy. I don't want to be too didactic, but you can't be concerned with the environment and support industries that are destroying the environment. So forgive my didacticism, but I care very deeply about this. So now we're going to play the video one more time. And then after that, we have 2 hours of music, a DJ set, my pandemic DJ set that I made while lying in bed. But I got dressed up for it, at least. And then we have a phenomenal DJ set coming up after that, from Vintage Culture. And yeah, thanks again to Zombie and to Twitch and to Mia from Brighter Green and from Sandra from MFA. And again, brightergreen.org, Mercy for Animals. And that's the end of my spiel. And let's watch the video one last time. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
My only love.